Hey traders, this is Cousin Vinny coming to you on Thanksgiving night. After having turkey dinner, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving as well. A number of you have asked about what I look at the end of the day. I'm always talking about the close, and I'm less interested in the intraday. And that's pretty much the case. I draw my fibs at the end of the day and watch the targets that I set for myself so that I can trade. That's my plan, and that's how I trade. So I'm going to give you a quick run through of what I would look at today being Thursday. We'll just look at what we have on the screen right now. Okay, so this is the ES. I've been looking at these same levels for some time now. The 10-4 low to the October 27th high. Those are my two pivots that I keep drawing my same Fibonacci's from. Okay, so every day over the last week I kept looking at the candles at the closes and kept saying that you need to keep an eye on the close. Okay, when we came into the week on Friday, at the end of the week, we had this indecisive candle, but we did have these two tests of the 382. Okay, so that's an important level, 382, that I look at as well. On that Friday, we had that situation. So I felt there was either going to be a bounce here, okay, which might not have been in the cards because we had the RSI continuing to move lower. So I don't just look at the fibs, I do look at patterns. At the time, we had this pennant that we had drawn out, okay, that we were also considering, alright, where we dropped out of that. So we had some momentum going, we had the RSI pointing lower, and my thoughts were either we bounce, RSI turns up, or we continue lower, which the momentum was showing that that was a good possibility. So I was positioning with that in mind, and the next day, of course, we came down, we tested the 1178, 1179 level on this candle here on Monday, right? So the fact we came down, we closed above the low of the day, but the RSI continued to point down, kept telling me that I should stay with my SPY 120 straddle and look for a bounce a little bit lower. So on Tuesday, we had this candle where we're in between the two levels. Okay, came down and tested that 178 level again, 179, and we closed a little bit higher. But RSI continued. It did start to move sideways. Okay, during this time, so there was a possibility this could turn and come back up. But we didn't see that on Friday. We immediately traded down below the 50% level, and I felt because RSI was continuing to move lower, there's a very good likelihood that we're going to test the 1152, 1153 area. Okay, and that's why I kept saying 1152, 1152 in the room. I thought the possibility is we could hit the 618, move down through there a little bit, and maybe do what we did here. Okay, and possibly look for this as a long area at 618 and a bounce. What I'm currently thinking is that we do come down to that level on Friday, and depending on how we close, alright, I'm looking at this scenario here where we could come up, depending on what level, if we hit the 786 or the 618, there's a possibility that we could get a nice wave C up. Anyway, the 127 extension is a possibility, but for now I'm just looking at these levels and thinking that there's a possibility we could bounce at the 618. I'll be looking for any type of indecisive candle here What I'd like to see is a nice hammer where we come down through 618 and we close up much higher and have this situation. That's the key of what I'm looking for right now. And the RSI being oversold, the possibility that we get a move up. So check the RSI, check the levels that you're at, the patterns, look to see if there's anything that we can see in this, and go from there. Alright, so if we zoom out a little bit further, we take this channel, okay, thinking that the 618 would be an area of a bounce, and the possibility that these levels would give us something of a channel. Alright, we have these lows. I know I'm reaching here a little bit, but this is what I'm looking at. So doesn't mean this is what's going to happen, but being black boxes and other traders look at the Fibonacci's as well as patterns and probabilities, this appeared to be a good level where we could bounce. Okay. Just want to note one more time the RSI getting down to oversold territory. Doesn't mean these can't go lower and come down to 786 and create something of a inverted head and shoulders, where we have a shoulder here, head, and a shoulder down here. Okay, in which case I would take this wave here and could see something develop along these lines. All right. Let's look at some other charts though. The other thing I'm looking at is the S&P, and you note the Bollinger Bands, how they're expanding both upper and lower, and to me that's telling me that could be further downside. Alright, so that's just a possibility. This is the S&P 500. Let's take a look at the spiders, keeping in mind what we just looked at on the ES. Okay, note the Bollinger Bands are expanding. We're pushed out of this area. We're oversold on the stochastics. We'd need a crossover to give us a buy signal, and this candle closing above, or the next candle, if we move down to the 618, we'd need a close above the candle that we might put in on Friday. Okay, if we've come down to 618 on Friday, okay, we would need to see a candle close back above inside of the Bollinger Bands to give us a buy signal, along with the stochastics turning higher. All right, but for now, the trend is down. All right, note all your EMAs are moving down, your MAs, depending on what you're using. All right, when Bollinger Bands spread like this, it means it's further downside, and the fact that the upper band is moving up and the lower is moving away. Looking at this shoulder here, head, possibility of a shoulder down here at the between the 112 and 115 area. Okay. Going out a little further, I'm also watching the monthly, and note what's happening here at the 20 MA, the middle of this Bollinger Band. The fact that on the monthly basis, the S&P still has momentum headed down. All right. MACD got across, and CCI is heading lower as well. Looking at the weekly, you can see we pushed down through the 200 EMA, 1189. 24 on the S&P, and we were overbought and coming down pretty quickly. Okay, could we come down and test these levels? Sure. Do we have to stop here? No. But we have to watch the momentum on the daily, the weekly, and the monthly basis as well, when we're thinking about where we're at in terms of what type of market we're trading in. All right, do we have this leg down, move up, and then another leg down equal to this move? All right, from 1350 down to 1100. That's a possibility too, and something I consider. And depending on the way these candles play out, if we have another big move down on a weekly basis, that could signal further downside. So you have to look at the close in each case. You have to look at not only the daily but the weekly charts. Okay. And of course, when you look at the weekly, these two big candles do not look good. It would have been better had this been obviously a bounce here, and this had been a green candle on the week, but we don't have that. RSI is headed down, so there's a very good likelihood on a closing basis, both daily and weekly, we continue to see further downside. The more I didn't look at this weekly candle on Friday because I hadn't seen the close yet, but I anticipated that it would be something like this. If we get another move down, the 786 looks like a very good possibility. RSI, like I said, is still headed down. So we could see further downside, come down and test this area of 1100, 1115. All right, that'd be 115 on the spiders. I'm looking at that as a very likely scenario. So look at this price pattern, this uptrend. We had this head and shoulders top. We broke down, we came up, we tested that area, and we broke back down. So market's still pretty weak. You got to listen for the news, have a feel for the market, anticipate, see your predictive levels using your Fibonacci's, your patterns, and your trend lines and momentum indicators. Give you a sense of which direction you're going and trade accordingly. Over the past week, I was leaning more delta neutral. I did have some shorts, which I took off, some of them on Friday, or excuse me, on Wednesday. And you just have to keep that in mind when you're trading. Okay? I hear the kids fighting upstairs, so I'm going to run. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you on Thanksgiving night. Take care. Remember to use your stops, and we'll talk to you soon.